A 17-year-old girl disappears from her job, leaving behind only her scooter and a chilling mystery. What really happened to Lisa Holm? The truth will shock you. Today, we explore another unfortunate story that may shock you today. The girl disappeared from the cafe where she worked on the weekends. Police started finding unsettling hints that something really terrible had occurred to the child without a trace. The case stunned Sweden as a country right from the start. After assembling over 1,000 participants for the biggest search effort in the nation's history, they were able to reveal the sad truth, leaving everyone with disbelief at the possibility of such a disaster. Born on February 7, 1998, Lisa Holm grew up with her parents and older sister in the quiet and serene Swedish town of Who It Was. Lisa was a nice, upbeat, and resolute person. She made the choice to study architecture in Australia even before she graduated from high school. Along with her parents, Lisa took many trips and visited many other countries. Since she was a teenager, she has also been very independent. Lisa has been employed at a number of part-time jobs before the summer of 2015, making some money on her own. At the age of 17, Lisa got her first full-time employment at a cafe around 40 minutes away from her home. Her father finally made the decision to get a scooter for her after her parents drove her there for the first few weeks. Lisa was licensed to drive this kind of vehicle, but she couldn't receive a driver's license until she was 18. Although she was happy with the present because she wanted to drive herself to work, her father drove her there for the first few weeks because she only worked on the weekends, and her father was with her every morning and evening. Lisa had very little experience behind the wheel. This continued until around lunchtime on June 7th, when he finally allowed her to drive alone to the cafe. That day, her parents made the choice to come to her place of employment and have lunch together. Lisa was really busy with work because the cafe was rather full. After a short lunch break, she and her parents enjoyed a snack before returning home at 6:23. Lisa told her dad via SMS that she was leaving work. But 3 minutes later, he received the call from her. He picked up, but no one answered. He thought Lisa had accidentally called his phone after hearing some sounds in the background. A car door slamming shut was another sound he heard. Her father thought right away that she might have been in trouble. He was really worried about her safety because it was her first time riding the scooter by herself. Several times he tried to call her, but Lisa's phone was off. Lisa should have taken the shortest path, but after waiting a few more minutes, her father made the choice to drive away, hoping to meet her along the way. The father drove slowly and looked around the road because he thought Lisa might have been in an accident, but she was nowhere to be seen, to be found. His daughter was nowhere to be seen when the dad finally arrived at the cafe. He saw Lisa's scooter parked in front of the building when he got to her place of work. The guy, who had been unable to find his daughter the entire journey, was already in a panic by that point. He instantly relaxed when he saw her bike, supposing she was somehow late for work. But the cafe was empty, and the man's eyes picked up on something else. A helmet and Lisa's scooter keys were left in the car, hanging from the grip. All of this made him think that his daughter had suffered a terrible fate because she would never have left the keys in the scooter and left it alone in the parking lot. When Lisa's mother called the cafe owner to ask for information about her daughter's whereabouts, the owner said she had no idea where she could have gone. Around 6 p.m., she had called her staff, and they told her that the cafe would be shutting. The cafe's owner got into her right away after Lisa's mother called. Vehicle, and they made their way there. She asked 4 of her friends who lived nearby to help with the search over the phone while she was on her way. Together with Lisa's father, the cafe owner came on the scene and they started searching the building and the neighborhood. Their last hope was that Lisa might have decided to take a bus rather than the scooter for some reason. After consulting the timetable, Lisa's mother and her older sister drove to their town's bus stop. Regretfully, there was no proof for this version. Lisa wasn't on the bus, so her family called police right away. It was about 1 p.m. by then, while the outside was already black. The cops started conducting thorough searches right away. They thought about the possibilities of abduction instances like this, which are extremely uncommon in Sweden, especially in the isolated provincial area where Lisa's town was located, because Lisa's scooter was left in the parking lot with the keys. As a result, police sent out multiple groups with search dogs right after, while other cops started beating on all the houses next to the cafe. Following Lisa's abduction, her friends and classmates started posting information about it on social media in an attempt to get more attention and perhaps find any witnesses. All night long, the hunt went on without finding anything. The police department made the public aware of Lisa's disappearance on Monday morning and asked anyone with knowledge to come forward. At about the same time, a man arrived at a barn to work, found a motorcycle glove on the floor across the cafe, and told the cops. On the night that Lisa vanished, detectives had already checked this barn, but they had failed to spot the glove. When they showed Lisa's parents, they confirmed the glove was hers. This gave further support to the kidnapping. For the search, theory and the cops used more resources. At that point, hundreds of volunteers joined the hunt when word of Lisa's disappearance went across the country. Clues volunteers scoured the area along the dirt road, a few hundred yards from the cafe, after police got numerous additional concerning leads on Tuesday. They found a shattered smartphone screen, a ticket, a receipt, and a phone case there. Investigators focused their search there after deciding right away that Lisa had all of these goods. Lisa's ID, multiple more invoices, and other pieces of the damaged smartphone were soon found. Following the discovery of those pieces of evidence, all of these items were found strewn along the same dirt road. The police were almost sure that Lisa had been kidnapped. They pushed all of their resources into the hunt, and as the days went by, more and more individuals joined the investigation, making it the headlines. Subject in Sweden, and hundreds of volunteers from throughout the country came to help with the search. Additionally, a local volunteer group that specializes in missing person searches joined the effort. Because of all of this, Lisa's search was the biggest in the nation's recent history, with more than hacks. There were thousands of participants total, and the police also got a lot of calls with tips. According to one woman, the day before Lisa disappeared, she went for a jog. She was stopped in the middle of the road by a man who was standing next to his car. He asked her how to get to a place she had never heard of and spoke to her in English. The man requested she get into his car and use his navigator to show him the way after she tried to show him the way on Google Maps. The woman, of course, thought this plan was quite dubious, so she declined and kept running. She also gave the cops an intriguing detail. She thought she had before seen this man among the workers fixing the same barn across the street from the cafe. One comment made by Lisa's co-workers on the day of her disappearance was also shared. Two guys were spotted by one of the witnesses standing across the street from the cafe, looking in its direction. Although she didn't give it much thought at the time, she chose to share this after Lisa vanished. Together with the police, Louis's father and a few friends went to search the muddy road where her possessions were found the following Wednesday morning. As he continued to walk, he came across a number of further concerning finds. He found Lisa's house keys and driver's license. As the kidnapper threw Lisa's things out of their car or whatever vehicle they used to kidnap her, it looked as though Lisa was being led along this road away from the cafe. The volunteers and police focused entirely on this area, ignoring everything else. The same evening, Lisa's father's friend, on his way home from the hunt, stumbled upon them at the cafe. He saw that the barn where Lisa's glove was found had been cleared of the police tape. The man chose to go inside and look again for any further clues. It was already getting dark outside, so he took a flashlight from his car and spent a few minutes exploring the building until he noticed something shining on the floor. Upon careful study, he noticed an earring belonging to a woman, and another like one close by. After the man told the police, Lisa's parents were shown the earrings. They acknowledged that their daughter was the owner of these jewels. The cops searched the barn more deeply and locked it off once more. The lead investigator then clarified that the barn was not given a comprehensive inspection on the first day of Lisa's search, since their main goal was to find the girl. Small things like earrings, which they may have ignored, were suddenly brought in. This time, a somewhat odd piece of evidence was found behind one of the walls by a number of forensic experts and search dogs. The cops found human waste. Although it might not seem important to the case at first, the forensic professionals have a fascinating viewpoint. They explained that when criminals conduct heinous and terrible actions, their bodies make a lot of adrenaline, which can occasionally cause an insatiable want to urinate. For instance, killers frequently get wet, either prior to or during the murder. Detectives didn't rule out the chance that someone under the effect of adrenaline couldn't hold it and relieve themselves, so these feces were sent to DNA analysis on Friday. Considering that Lisa's glove and earrings were found in the barn, the police theorized that if she had been kidnapped, the perpetrator might have dragged her into this building. After widening the search area, volunteers arrived at a house roughly 2 miles from the cafe. It was a mix of many. The search crew made the choice to check all of the big buildings where a lot of people worked. But soon after they got there, 2 guys who spoke only English and didn't speak Swedish visited the farm. Because he thought he would have known, the search team leader disregarded a member's report that the police had visited this farm and went on with the search. After spending some time on the farm watching the volunteers, the 2 guys drove off for an hour or so. The search crew later found a motorcycle helmet, jacket, and headphones beneath a heap of branches behind the bird. After arriving, the police confirmed Lisa owned all of these things. To perform a more exhaustive investigation, they dispatched forensic specialists to the farm. The tale of the 2 odd individuals who tried to talk the volunteers out of checking out the farm was also told to the detectives. Additionally, the cops remembered a woman who overheard a suspicious man talking. As they jogged, in fact, they had a suspicion about who it might be from the very beginning of the search. They had been to every home close to the cafe, and in one of them, 2 Lithuanian brothers and one of their wives lived. None of the 3 spoke Swedish. They all spoke English. Within a few miles, they were the only people who did not speak the Lang language. Other circumstantial information led the police to suspect them as well. The barn across the street from the cafe was where the brothers worked. They also knew where these places were, and the muddy road where Lisa's items were discovered led to their home at the property where her helmet was found. Police questioned all 3 because there were no other suspects. In the meantime, the volunteers and forensic experts arrived at the farm. They carried on looking about, and finally an old trailer caught their eye. It looked to have been abandoned for many years and was encircled by dense grass. However, the grass beside its door looked crushed, as though something had just been placed there. Additionally, there was some grass stuck beneath the door, suggesting that it had just been opened. There was an overpowering smell of rotting as soon as the forensic experts opened the door. There were numerous garment lockers inside the trailer, which had allegedly originally served as a worker changing area. The experts thought that Lisa's body might be in one of the lockers because all but one of them were locked. Finally found that Lisa's body was in one of the unlocked lockers, concealed beneath a stack of rags and old clothing. The criminal was able to fit their victim inside the locker, despite its limited size. Lisa was wearing a lot of tape over her head and a rope over her neck. She had her shirt pulled up and her pants pulled down. Although there were no indications of sexual assault, medical professionals decided that Lisa had been strangled to death. Her whole outfit was turned over to the laboratory as word spread about the Obercoin. All this time, word of her body's discovery quickly circulated across the nation. When Lisa's body was discovered and the public learned that she had been brutally murdered, the story of her kidnapping took over Swedish headlines. The entire country was rocked by the case. People were startled that someone could carry out such a horrible act on the same day that her body was found, because such crimes were relatively rare in Sweden. Something strange and a little unsettling happened. A video that was uploaded 13 days before the murder was found by YouTube users. There was a countdown timer in the movie, which was called 13. The name of the channel that posted the movie, Lisa Holm, was the most disturbing element. Many people were taken aback by the string of coincidences when news of this film quickly circulated across the media. Although some people started to think that the murder had been foreseen, the truth was considerably easier. After Lisa's body was found, it seemed that the channel name and video title had recently been altered. This individual either desired to spark either a nasty joke or another conspiracy idea. In the meantime, the cops were making every effort to track down the murderer as soon as possible. Investigators had earlier hauled in a woman and two brothers at the time of Lisa's discovery, and they all denied any connection to the crime. Their kidnapping happened at home while they made excuses for each other. Their stories say that while his wife was making dinner, the younger brother, Noah, was sleeping in his bed. Narus also stated that it was approximately 8 p.m. on the computer. After waking up, he went to the petrol station and bought cigarettes and pizza. Since all three could have been only stepping in for one another, the cops were quite skeptical of their alias. Despite gathering their DNA samples, officials were still unable to find any proof that would have connected any of them to the murder. But this was short-lived. At the farm and barn, forensic experts used all their effort and resources. In the barn, their efforts soon paid off. A tiny room that resembled an office had a big window that looked out over the cafe. Experts who studied this room found 15 distinct signs of male semen on the floor and walls close to this window. Someone seemed to have stood there watching Lisa and other staff members of the cafe as they gratified themselves. Experts quickly extracted DNA profiles from these semen samples when they were sent to the lab. All 15 identified traces are identical to the older Narus, a 35-year-old brother. The same was true of the excrement found in the bar. It was his in the next room, which had once been used to store cow's milk. About 2 feet above the ground, forensic specialists noticed a pipe that was heavily coated with dust, save for a thin strip. The rope that was used to strangle Lisa was exactly the same size as this strip. This pipe also contained blood traces, and the DNA examination confirmed that it belonged to Narus. They found a piece of the same rope on the floor underneath the pipe. After analyzing it, experts found 2 DNA profiles. In addition to the fact that a hair belonging to Lisa was discovered on the floor of this room, the police made a big breakthrough when they were able to connect the man to the rope that was used to kill the victim. Her jacket also had Narus's DNA traces, which gave another important piece of evidence. The police thought she was slain there based on this information. They put together a rough summary of what had happened in Narus. He approached Lisa when she was by herself in the parking lot. According to the jogger's account, he could have asked her for directions to a specific place or used another strategy. Then, since Lisa was good-hearted and always tried to help others, he might have asked her to get into his car so he could enter the route in the GPS system. She might have agreed, but once she was in the car, the perpetrator taped her mouth shut, drove her to the barn, put the rope around her neck, and hung her. Narus said that I was home at the time, according to his brother. Noah later explained that, as an immigrant with no alibi at the time of the kidnapping, he was worried about being set up for a crime he hadn't committed. After hearing all the evidence, The younger brother, who thought his relative was innocent, concluded otherwise. Just 1 month after Lisa was killed, her funeral was held. Only 13 people could fit in the church where it was held, but many more showed up to bid her goodbye. To ensure that everyone could watch the ceremony, the organizers even decided to erect benches and big screens outside. 4 months after the murder, the trial got started. Everyone participating in the process was under a lot of pressure because this problem once again attracted national attention. They all have no reason for making a mistake. Narus's attorney said that because his client had worked in the barn, his DNA might have found its way onto the victim's clothes. However, the prosecution noticed that this version was illogical. The only way the suspect's DNA could have gotten into Lisa's underwear, in particular, was if he had touched the victim's panties. The attorney was unable to offer any additional convincing proof of his client's innocence. He once tried to promote the theory that Narus's younger brother was the true murderer. This idea states that the brother inadvertently took several DNA samples from Narus and applied them to the victim's corpse and the scene of the crime. But the attorney does not explain the potential for such DNA manipulations. Narus was found guilty of murder after a month-long trial. He got a sentence of life in a high-security prison. Since this is Sweden, the facilities are more similar to a respectable 3-star hotel. His attorney tried to appeal the decision, but it was denied. Narus himself filed an application for deportation and relocation to a prison in his native country at the beginning of 2017. Although Lithuanian jails are far worse than Swedish ones, the court's reasons for this ruling was unclear. Decided to accept his request after all, as it cost Swedish taxpayers hundreds of kronor every day to provide each prisoner with comfortable surroundings. His plans were revealed later that year. His sentence was dropped from life to 15 years when he filed an appeal with the Lithuanian court. But the murderer's happiness was brief. The court reversed this decision a few weeks later, and Noah was once more sentenced to life in jail. But now he had no chance of going back to the cozy Swedish cell. 5 years later, in August 2022, Narus had to deal with the added drawback of being sent to a jail in Lithuania. One of the prisoners used a shank to attack Narus as they were being moved to a different block. He passed away en route to the hospital after suffering serious injuries. Regarding his partner, it is still possible that she was involved. There is very little chance that she was directly involved in the kidnapping or murder. According to the police, experts would have discovered her DNA on Lisa's clothes or possessions, but it is possible that she was aware of her husband's crime and assisted him in avoiding punishment by giving him a false alibi. Narus's younger brother also causes concerns. Given that one of the men was probably Noah himself and the other should have been his brother, cafe staff reported seeing 2 men standing close to the barn and watching them. However, the man's DNA was not found in the barn or on Lisa's clothing, ruling out his involvement in the murder. Perhaps they were only geeks who decided to carry out such a horrible crime. Despite seeing the younger staff members conversing inappropriately with the older brother. If you are interested in seeing more crime like that, don't forget to like this video, and subscribing to the channel would be highly appreciated. There are a lot of shocking tales to come.